The weather's beautiful, the architecture's amazing, the people are great, the food's wonderful, so I'll come back anytime as long as you guys will have me. It's great here. One of these days I will make it out to a soccer match, I promise you. So, this is my lecture. It's talking about the rise of the power of creative in video gaming. So, just go over a quick high level, who the hell am I, with a lot of goofy pictures of myself on the side. I've been in the industry now for 19 years. It's been a long time since Jazz Jackrabbit, man, and I was 17 when I did that, 36 now. Did the Unreal franchise, of course, Unreal Tournament, 2003, 2004, Unreal Championship, all those games. Then finally, after much kicking and screaming, got around to finally doing the Gears of War, which has been very great for us. It's been a great success. Third game's coming out September 20th. Hope you guys like it. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you enjoyed the beta. And then also at Epic, in my position of design director, I was able to help out with our other titles such as Bulletstorm, Infinity Blade, and Shadow Complex. So I get to do a lot of fun stuff, get to travel, get to thankfully be the face of the company. So we have to have a disclaimer here at the beginning. I have to let you know these are my opinions, these are not Microsoft's opinions, these are not Gamelab's opinions, these are not Xbox's opinions. This is just me speaking and ranting a little bit up here. I love these conferences. My favorite one I went to a couple years ago was Game Developers Conference. And San Francisco is known for having a lot of homeless people. And so at the end of the conference one day, I took off my badge and I threw it in the trash. Later on that evening at dinner, my friend Alan comes up to me and hands me my badge. And I'm wondering, how did you get that? And it turns out that the homeless person had dug in the trash, had taken out my badge, and had meandered into the conference center trying to find food. At which point they were stopped by security. They took the badge back, gave it back to our office administrator, and he gave the badge back to Alan, who then handed it to me at dinner. And I'm sitting there thinking, this guy's going to be meandering around the Moscone Convention Center with my name around his neck, and people have to be thinking that, man, Epic's really grabbed Cliff to it. But no, they've worked him to the bone. But that's the beauty of San Francisco. I love the city, and I love the craziness that comes out of it, and I love all the travel I get to do. Remember, I'm not a business guy, I'm not a programmer, this is the creative angle on what I'm going to talk about today. And I want to apologize to the translator ahead of time. I've had a few espressos, I tend to speak very quickly, so I hope you can keep up with me. So I want to talk about a power creative. What is a power creative? I have to define this for you guys. This is somebody who calls the shots creatively. Not only do they call the shots, they're also very visible. They're a person that's not afraid to put themselves out there in conferences, in interviews, and things like that. They're a person who's unique and valuable because not only can they lead creatively, but they can also be out there and expose themselves to the public and the media. It could be anybody. It could be a coder, it could be a designer, it could be an artist, somebody who can evolve into that position of being a power creative. And I just want to provide some pointers on things that I've learned along the way. So I'm going to start with some obvious tips about being a power creative in the industry. Then I'm going to outline the value of PR and marketing as a creative. Then I want to talk about understanding the current state of the market as well as your consumer. Then talk about the future, where everything's going in the industry and how to build proper IP or intellectual property for that. And then talk about the fact that this is in fact a business and you need to understand that business. So we'll talk a little bit about the obvious stuff, get it out of the way right at the top. First thing and foremost is to know your weaknesses. I myself, I'm more of a creative type. I'm not much of a spreadsheet guy. I'm the kind of guy who will come up and be like, hey, I have 16 gun ideas. This one's got a chainsaw on it. This one has a drill on it. This one has a sander. And we can do all these things. I need somebody who's more of a organized type person. And throughout my history of my career, I've had that person. It's the kind of person who's the left brain to the right brain type. And you have, you know, Kirk and Spock there. You have Van Halen and David Lee Roth there. You have the front man who's the wild one, and then you have the guy who's the quiet one who helps make things work. I'm the guy who's out there with the shirt and the collar in front of you today, but I have people I've always worked with who keep me in line. We build mutual respect for each other. And I've also wondered, like, okay, if I were to start over, what would I do if I left Epic tomorrow and I was given a development deal? I go to EA or somebody else like that. I'd be like, look, I need a producer who knows the stuff. I need an art director. I need a lead animator. I need a team to support me because this is very much a team effort. And why do I love Epic? Because I get to make my dream game on a regular basis, which is not often something you get to do in this business. So know your weaknesses and know when to delegate. Know when to say, I can't handle this. At a time during Unreal 1, or actually it was not Unreal, it was Gears of War 1's development, where I realized that as a creative, I'm not very good with planning artificial intelligence. I don't know how to create AI, I'm not very good at it. I've always had other people I work with who do that. And then Rod Ferguson pulled me aside and was like, dude, this isn't working. Let's let Ray Davis, the lead coder, just work on some stuff. Let him work for a week and see what he comes up with. And I had to let go at that point. If you're a power creator, you're going to control every last thing. And the most powerful thing you can do is actually know when to let go. So, I can pop to the next slide, keep moving. We have 73 slides to burn through here today. One of my big advices, my big nuggets of advice I often give to people who are getting in the industry is to know when to make your product personal. For myself, I found that there's not enough of that in the industry. I remember reading about Shigeru Miyamoto and how when he would go through the caves in Kyoto as a child, and how that later inspired him to make Zelda, and how he got a dog, and then later Nintendogs comes out, and then he starts gardening, and then the game Pikmin comes out. That's because he was driving his personal experiences from life into his video games. That's always my advice to creatives, is to go out, live your life, have your heart broken. When you look at Gears of War, you can tell that I'm a child of the 80s. You can see a G.I. Joe influence there. You can see a Transformers influence. You can see all that 80s stuff that I grew up with coming through. Predator, Aliens, it's all there, because this is what I was born and raised on in America. Gears 1 for me was actually built at a very difficult personal time. I got married at a very young age, and I was actually going through a divorce. And I'm a big believer that sometimes when you suffer, the best creative juices start flowing at that point, and then you create great work. That's why you meet so many artists who are always in agony, because they're always in pain, and they use that agony as kind of a tool to motivate them. There's a reason why Marcus Phoenix in the new Gears of War has some daddy issues. Rod Ferguson, the producer, Lee Perry, and I all got together one day and realized that we all lost our dads at a young age. And somehow through this collective development, we decided that Marcus's dad would be dead, but then you find out in Gears 3 that he's not, that there's a message that's being sent out. And so this game is all about reuniting with your father that you thought was dead, and that all came out of our personal experiences. So in the press, I want to advise you, some of the most interesting interviews I ever have with the press is when they ask me personal questions. They say, hey, what was driving this? What was the true motivation behind that? And they're always very apologetic about crying a little bit. If you do it politely, there's nothing wrong with doing that. You read Rolling Stone interviews, Esquire interviews with artists and musicians, and they always get personal with it. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of that. We're very guarded in this industry. I hate this photo of myself, by the way. Every time I see it, I want to punch myself in the face. I'm just like, I look like a used car salesman. Like, how's it going, guys? But there's a message here with this. Understand that as a game designer, as a creative, one part of your job is sales. You have to be able to convince other people that an idea is good. We have a saying in the industry, it's called the authority stick. And you don't want to tell somebody, use my idea. You don't want to beat them with that stick and say, because I told you so. Because there's a saying that the stick gets shorter every time you use it. I need to be able to convince you that a chainsaw gun is in fact a cool idea, and that you're going to want to use that. Because if I can't convince you, who else am I going to be able to convince? And I call this the chain of excitement. I need to convince my peers first, my coworkers, that a weapon or a character or a setting is a good idea. Then I can convince the publisher when I go in front of Microsoft and they're bored and pregnant and I try and sell them on this game that it's a great idea. Then I need to convince the press over the course of very many interviews that it's a great idea. And then I can convince the fans. And you have to, at every stage, be able to re-pitch the same idea and make it selling the first time you've ever pitched it. So I want to go into a little bit of the value of PR and marketing right now. And any power creative gets PR and marketing. Kojima-san, myself, and Molly do, we're here not only because we love the city, but also to evangelize the products and to put a face on our games. PR is very necessary in this world. Public relations, doing interviews, getting to know the press. My problem in life when I was growing up was I was never cool enough for the cool kids. I never wanted to go to parties and get messed up. I didn't want to go to sporting events. But I didn't want to go play Dungeons & Dragons in my friend's basement. I was always halfway between that. Never cool enough for the cool people, never nerdy up for the nerds. Now this is actually a great asset for me, that I can sit there and I can hang out with a very nerdy programmer and work on some weapon code with him and tweak it with him. But then I can also hang out and take an artist to the pub and have pints with him. I'll be able to operate between both circles. You need to be able to bond with a variety of all these personalities in any given location and stay liquid like that. But most importantly, do not be afraid to be public. Last night we were at the awards shows, and it's always so endearing when you see developers go up to introduce people and they're like, the nominees are, and they run off. Everybody, when you go into a lecture like this, people are here for a reason. They're rooting for you. They want to see you say interesting things. They want to hear you tell stories. Don't be afraid to be public. Be a chameleon. But the main reason why developers don't do a lot of PR, and then this is a softer version of the previous lecture here, is because people are freaking mean. Okay? And especially when you add the internet into the equation, they get really freaking mean. So I'd like to share with you a few takeaway quotes that I have found personally endearing and motivating off of various interviews and YouTube videos that I've had. The first one here is, yes, Cliffy B maintains the undisputed title of being the world's biggest douchebag, at least in the game developers world. I'm glad that he wasn't lumping me in with the Jersey Shore crowd there, and that I'm the big douchebag in the game developers world. That really helps make me feel very motivated to go to work every day. This is another one I like. Is Cliffy is a moron who lies for money. He is not cool and don't believe a word he says. Douchebag alert. There's that word again. Douchebag. You wonder why a lot of developers don't want to put themselves out there, because these kinds of flames wind up being slung over the fence. This is my friend Tanya Jessup. She's the producer for the game we did called Bulletstorm. She is smart, she takes no crap, she's one of the best producers I've worked with. She also happens to be pleasant looking. Let's see what YouTube says about Tanya. Why is this hot chick producing a video game? Get back in the kitchen and make me a sex tape, bitch. The question is, not how did she get out of the kitchen, it's how did she get out of my basement. This one had 62 thumbs up on YouTube. Thankfully, Tanya, like myself, has thick skin and can deal with this. So you need to have this thick skin. If you do any sort of PR, things like that, they will say the worst thing imaginable about you online. You eventually take that insult and turn that into fuel for the fire to motivate you to make great games, to show them all that you know what you're doing. Above all, for me, I realized when I was younger that this was my insurance policy. By putting myself out there and doing the PR, if Tim Sweeney woke up one day and decided, God, I hate Cliff, I'm done with you, because people know who I am, I could probably go to any number of publishers and get a deal. I love knowing who game developers are. Reason 2, why developers don't do PR more is because most publishers don't want it. The saying here is Gears of War, you'd say you're a cog in the machine. You're a piece of the machine, of the manufacturing machine. You're the worker on the assembly line. There's a TV show called Fraggle Rock that was big in the States where there were these workers called doozers. And they just worked all day long and they're happy to have a job. That's what a publisher ultimately wants you to be, is somebody on the assembly line. Once you go out there and you do a little bit of PR and you become a person, then you can become a brand and then you can rise above that. I may not be the best game designer out there, but I'm one of the most visible and one of the ones that's quoted a lot. And I take a lot of crap for it, but it's always been my insurance policy. You say, but I'm a nerd. I can't go out there. I'm just, oh, I'm sweaty and I can't deal with this. You know what? If you really look at where the world is right now with pop culture, I think it's safe to say the nerds are everywhere and the nerds have taken over. We're actually at the point where it's cool to be a nerd. However, make no mistake, if you ever get to the point where you're fortunate enough to be the spokesperson for your company, the person who puts their face out there, remember the team always. Because as we know, just like in a sporting event, you may be the guy who scores the goal, but it's the guy who passed it to you who you have to remember. Always remember you're forming a band here. It's essentially like forming a rock band, right? And if you're the face, you need to do these little tricks in order to stay humble. Whenever you talk about the game, don't say, my game, and here's what I think about this product. Say, our game, and here's what we're doing. So you're always throwing callbacks to the people you work with, the people who make you look good. Because you're the one out there, but it's them that are really doing a lot of hard work and making it great. And also remember, if you meet the fans, you get visible, stop and say hi, shake their hand, take a photo with them, because if you're nice to them, they'll tell everybody about how great you were. And if you're a dick, they will remember that and will not buy any of your games ever. I love that it's great that I know who Jonathan Blow, who made Braid, and Notch, who made Minecraft, are. These are visible, independent developers now. But I've always found it weird that as much as I love Rockstar games, I've never met a single Rockstar employee in the 19 years I've been in the industry, in spite of LA Noire being great, Grand Theft Auto, and Red Dead Redemption. A quick follow-up to the story is that I actually got an email from Sam Hauser a couple months ago. He's like, hey, I heard you never met any of us. Next time you're in New York, let's hang out. I'm like, sure, that would be great. And so apparently now, because I'm talking like this, I'm getting to meet some of these guys, which is nice. So a few developers participate in marketing also. Talk about PR and putting yourself out there, but marketing is the other half of this. It's so important. Your game is your baby game, right? And what happens often is you build a game and the publisher shields the developer from the marketing side and say, okay, thanks for the game, we're going to pat you on the head, we're going to market your game now, you don't know what you're doing with this, right? Just slip the product out the door. I think that's bullshit. I think this is your baby, and you work very hard on this product, and nobody knows this product better than you. You need to participate in the marketing plans. Two of my favorite examples of games that came out years ago with the worst box art I've ever seen in my entire life. And Deus Ex is a very sophisticated, intelligent game. It's not about a guy who looks like a Jersey Shore Guido shooting a gun gangster style at you. This is a lie. The game didn't do well because of several factors, but I'd like to think the box was also part of it. And Condemned is a franchise I actually really enjoy. Feeling like kind of an action horror game, kind of like with a 7 vibe. But I'm looking at this image and this looks like some sort of glory hole in a bathroom that somebody's peeking through. Like he's just, look at that, it's filthy. I don't want to buy this. This looks like a porno game.